I'm trying to get my mic like right in front of my face, maximize audio quality here. Yeah, that's right.
Hit me with that announcer voice. Enunciate your T's.
My T's.
Your T's. Because having listened back to it, I'm like, I've just done it then, kind of thing. I have a very, what's called a northern or Mancunian accent in England. And I very much so don't pronounce the letter T's in the middle of my words.
Such as?
Matter. Like, it doesn't, doesn't matter.
Matter.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure there's, along with other words with T's in the middle, I can't think of.
Well, that's a good example. But none of you say the R's, so you're good there.
YouTube doesn't really count, I guess, because it's two separate words.
Yeah, it's two words. Yeah.
Oh, all the settings. There we go.
Settings.
Say the settings.
Yeah, okay.
And it's just something I just do because that's how I've grown up talking.
Well, sure, yeah, it's just what's normal.
Water. Water's a big one. Water's a common one. I heard of a friend who went to the America. Yeah, and,
dangerous.
And he just wanted a bottle of water, and they didn't understand him. So he had to pronounce it in an American accent, water, for them to understand what he wanted. Good times.
That's funny.
Well, I guess we've kind of already started. So welcome everyone to the bottom of the well, because we're just kind of going off and talking on one. So let's just get started. Started. Yes. One. Started. That counts.
I mean, this is all on you. I can't provide any examples.
Newbs, I hear you've been playing sim games and making friends with animals. Would you like to tell us about said things that you have been doing?
Sure. Are we going to say welcome to the bottom of the well?
No.
I'm Newbs, and I'm joined here today by Burrhe.
I'm Burrhe. Hello.
Hi. Yes, I've been playing sim games. I believe last episode I promised, sort of spitefully, to play Star Fox Adventures.
Star Fox Temperatures.
Which I did not play. Thankfully. I'm glad that I didn't talk myself into that. Having said that, I did play another animal-based game almost exclusively over the past few weeks. Hideously addicted. It's called Planet Zoo. Would you like to hear about it?
All about it.
All about it. Okay. So Planet Zoo, I guess, is a successor to the old Zoo Tycoon. I think more famously there was Roller Coaster Tycoon.
There was all sorts of Tycoon games, wasn't there?
Yeah. And so again, I'm guessing on this because I'm not an expert. But I believe it's the same company or the spiritual successor.
Same developers or whatnot.
Right, blah, blah, something. Blah. So they did a Planet Coaster, and now there's Planet Zoo.
And Planet Coaster went down very well as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, to my knowledge. So I have not touched Planet Coaster, and I never played the old Zoo Tycoon or now I'm getting all these games mixed up. The coaster one.
The old Roller Coaster Tycoon thing.
Right, or the old Zoo one.
Yeah, I played those way back in day. Day, when we were wee lads. Yeah, they were fun games. I feel like I had my fill of those kind of games when I was that age. So when they've come back around for like the resurgence, I've not really felt the need to pick them up again. I say again because they are new, and I'm sure they're
entirely different. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I'm guessing again that the older games were probably a lot simpler to lay out your stuff, design your zoo. The Planet Zoo is like intensely complex and just technically, I think the idea is that this is a game where you can design any kind of zoo habitat you could possibly imagine and make it as realistic as you have time for. Because you can get in there with every shape of rock and tree and, layer them in 3D space in different ways and turn them different every potential angle and distance, high, low, and design these really sort of picture accurate zoos and habitats.
So is that why you've been spending so much time in this game?
That appeals to me absolutely not at all.
So you've not been sitting there just choosing the perfect rock for each rock?
No, because in fact, really I prefer to play this as though I'm playing old school SimCity or in fact Factorio. I feel like I'm coming at it with very much a Factorio mindset of I just want straight lines. I want everything to be efficient. I want, a nice grid layout. And in other words, nothing like a real zoo.
Just make everything a one-way path that everyone just walks around and then you go out and then you can come back in later.
Right, exactly. So I feel like perhaps, in a way, much of this game is not for me.
Yeah.
There's also a lot. It's not exactly user friendly, anyways, especially for someone who's just trying to make some straight lines. You can build the pathways just on a grid system, but the barriers, say for the animal habitats, you can lock them in at say 90-degree angles. So in theory, you could make a square or rectangle, but the last connection never seems to want to connect.
No. And
so it's inevitably not quite a nice clean box, for example. I think, and frequently as well, there's settings that are sort of hidden in other tabs, and you're not quite clear on what they do anyways. There's just a lot of settings to fight in order to really achieve what you want, when what you want is just some nice straight lines and a nice efficient layout.
That's all you want.
Mm-hmm.
So you want just
Let
lines.
Let me take a nice satisfying drink of water.
Water.
With a nice hard T sound, and let me continue.
Question.
Yeah.
Have you purposely released the tigers?
So, this is interesting. So there are a few modes in the game. There's a sandbox mode where you have unlimited money, and you can certainly go in and buy all the tigers you want and let them loose. Right? Or
yes.
You can put every kind of animal in one exhibit and see what happens. You can have, an animal battle royale, right? But in my mind, the main mode of the game is called franchise mode.
Yeah.
I should say there's also more like a level type, there's sort of a story mode, I guess, as well as sort of a tutorial as well. I haven't touched that either. But in franchise mode, you are picking somewhere on the globe to start a new zoo, and you get a little bit of starting money, and the rest is up to you. And the money they start you out with is just enough to build the necessary staff buildings. There's certain staff buildings that you need to have just to operate a zoo, somewhere for your vets, your keepers, your mechanics to go, and set up a simple couple habitats. But the thing is, there's two currencies in the game. So there's the cash, which you can be short on early on when you're starting out, but once you have any kind of profit at all, you can just sit back and wait for the money to roll in, right?
Oh yeah.
You can just AFK and let the money build.
Like Factorio, just watch the numbers go higher. Right,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So cash isn't much of an issue in the game generally, unless you totally mismanage it, But there's a second currency. It's called conservation credits. And unlike the cash, your credits carry across all of your zoos in franchise mode. So when you start out, I think you only start out with 300 or something, and then there's a real life, real world sort of digital marketplace of trading animals, okay? And other players sell their animals that they bred in their zoos on this marketplace. Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So when you're starting out, it's really difficult. Now, you can go in there and buy cash animals that are just sort of seeded from the developer, like they're just there, right? Mm-hmm. But they're like poor genetics usually. And also there are certain species I don't think that you can even get through cash, like the high-end ones, the elephants, the lions, the rhinos.
You know, the ones who like, you know, if you were to kill them and like harvest their organs and stuff and sell them on the black market, those are that's where the real money's to be made, yeah?
Yes, exactly. You can't buy those with cash. You got to have your hard-earned conservation credits.
That's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah. So early on, it can be a real struggle. And in fact, like, in my mind, the way to do it is not to just sort of naturally build a zoo and, like, as your animals happen to have offspring, sell them off at, you know, let's say a reasonable price. I would say figure out an animal that you can just like mass breed. Try to like breed up to like really like they have kind of bronze, silver, gold medals, say, for their genetics. Like there's kind of regular and then there's medals, right? Okay. For how good the genetics are of any given animal. Which is sort of horrific in a way. If you
like, oh yeah, these genetics, so good.
Yeah.
Got a load of the genetics on this one, Pat. There are some real good genetics here.
So it's kind of horrific. It's like, wow, like this is like dog breeding or something. It's a little bit I mean, they're animals, but I don't know. It's a little bit like, can't we be kind to the animals here?
What's wrong with a bit of a harmless eugenics, Newbs?
Yeah, well, let me tell you about Flamingo Eugenics.
Please.
So eventually I settled on, because there's a certain limit in terms of how many of any given animal you can have in one exhibit, right? Yeah, okay. And it doesn't matter how much space you give them. If you have, and frequently, say with a lot of the mammals, it's like one male and up to 3 females or something, right? And then if you have 2 males in a space, they'll tend to fight, right? But with the flamingos, you can have up to, I believe, 500, and the sex ratio doesn't matter because they mate for life.
Oh my goodness!
Equal numbers are fair game.
Oh my goodness!
So I set up a separate zoo just for flamingos. I dumped they're one of the cheap ones you can buy for cash on the store. So I kept buying the cash ones and dumping them in until I built up, I don't know, 80 or something. And then just, you know, max speed the game, wait for them all to reproduce. You have to wait for the babies to mature before you can get rid of them. But the ones you breed in captivity, you can release to the wild for conservation credits as well, rather than trying to actually sell them. So any of the like low value offspring, I would just release and get a quick number of credits.
Flash to like a newspaper clipping, like flying in from off screen, massive overpopulation in the wild flamingos.
That's the irony too. It's like in theory, I guess you're helping populate the world with these potentially endangered animals, but it's like, I don't think flamingos are endangered to begin with, and they certainly aren't after my program.
And just you in like your gold suit, just going, yes, I'm helping with the conservation efforts.
So I would release all the low value ones and keep the gold ones to keep breeding and pass on their genetics, right? So over time, over many generations, I built up, several hundred gold level flamingos. And then I started actually selling them on the market to other players. And the market, like any market, supply and demand, I think at points, demand for flamingos was lower and you couldn't get as much. But when I was selling them, I could sell them for, say, 1,000 credits or more. I think I was even kind of undervalued just to sell them faster.
Because you had so many.
Right, I could replace them so fast. What did it matter if I was, undercutting the market? And so I sold, I don't know, many of them. I got up to 100,000 conservation credits. I was like, I've hit some kind of milestone here. This is good enough, you know. So that is how I turned a mere 300 conservation credits into 100,000.
Dude, this is like, you've like perfectly illustrated what's bad about capitalism at the moment.
I know.
Oh my god. Someone needs to like actually make a separate video on this.
I really regretted not even just recording the gameplay and then sort of narrating something over it for a video. Maybe I still could, I guess.
Just if you have time, just send some footage over and we'll put it in here.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The thing with this as well is that the game is really a drain on my computer. I think computers in general. Like even just reading the subreddit, a lot of there was a thread I found like, when do you decide your zoo is done? When do you feel like you're good? And the replies were along the lines of, when the frame rate gets too bad, or like when my CPU can't take it anymore. Like the map they give you in theory is huge, but you can never fill it because just the game will crush your computer.
Yeah,
well
I did hear
before you get anywhere near that.
I did hear it was quite badly optimized.
Yeah, very poorly optimized, and even on lowest graphics settings, it can really kill your computer. So I actually found that even with the lowest, everything turned off, lowest graphics settings, I could not get to 500. In fact, I tried to get to 500, and right around the 500 mark, the game crashed.
Oh.
So typically I kept it 300 to 400 before I would just, clear out the inferior specimens.
Keep the gene pool nice and diverse.
Yeah, nice and pure, actually.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that was something, and yeah, it is a real marvel of capitalism.
So vote for Newbs 2020.
Yeah.
His policies on genetics and breeding are top notch. They're very next gen.
Yeah, they're next gen.
Oh,
all right. So after that, surprisingly, that was not the end of the Planet Zoo addiction.
Oh, do tell.
Well, because at that point I felt like, this is like the famous South Park episode where they play World of Warcraft, where they spend like the whole episode sort of leveling up to ultimately kill the super nerd who is, player killing everyone and ruining the game. And then they go on this massive, power leveling session. They kill the guy, and it's like hundreds of hours later, and they're like, what do we do now? And it's like, what do you mean? Now we can play the game normally. So after I'd built up my massive pile of Scrooge McDuck gold, I could finally play the game normally and go onto the market and buy the cool animals, the gorillas and elephants and rhinos and everything.
Play Planet Zoo as God intended.
Right, where I actually have access to these animals.
Oh, yeah.
So, you kind of wonder what the developers intended for certain animals to cost, because, like, when you go into the market, the top-level lions are always the max price, like 10,000 credits. So it's like, that is so vastly far from the starting 300 credits,
Well, what you need to do is get on that breeding train and undercut that market, and you'll be making so much.
But
and then
lions,
the big lion corp comes over and like takes down your lion breeding startup because you're undercutting them, and they've got like a deal with all the other big lion people, the lion mafia.
Big lion is keeping the little guy down.
Yeah, and like driving the prices of lions sky high because they've monopolized the market.
Honestly, I think you're describing something that's frighteningly close to the truth.
This is what happens. This is actually what happens.
Yeah. But the thing is, the flamingos are so easy to breed relative to any mammal, let's say, right? They have so many at a time because they're laying eggs in theory. It's so much faster, right? But anyways, yeah, that's the flamingo story. And since then, I've just been playing the game as intended, I think. Aside from the fact that I'm still just building very basic square rectangular habitats and just like trying to perfect trying to force the game to have a more, I think, sort of clean, symmetrical building style than was intended.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing that I end up doing with a lot of games with building aspects in them, like Minecraft, for example. If just given an open space, I'll just build a big rectangle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, in order to make the building interesting, I'll like go to the side of a mountain or something like that, and then incorporate that into my building to actually force myself not to make a big rectangle.
Yep. So I grew up on SimCity 2000.
Oh yeah.
It's probably still the game I've put the most raw amount of hours into, and like that game is all of, the map is just a grid. You just look and there's a grid. There's never not a grid.
A beautiful, beautiful grid where everything's
and like
orderly.
you can pre-design the layout of the map. Like I think the sort of default is like, oh, there's some rivers and like mountains. It goes up and down. There's forests, and I would always just set everything's just flat. There's like one straight river, and I would just like build out a perfect like road grid, So
as God intended before nature ruined everything.
Well, can you imagine cities if they were built that way, just like perfect grid layouts?
Right, we're not building this city until we find an area with no hills or mountains and a perfectly straight river.
Well, okay, the river I'll allow. I get that. But the land you can just flatten. They're going to flatten it over time anyways.
This is true.
Imagine how easy it would be to navigate such a city.
So good, so clean. I mean, there's a reason, like, modern cities, i.e. American cities, are built similar to that.
Right. Yeah, well, let me tell you about Flamingo Eugenics.
Please. This past weekend, me and my partner have just been huddling under the duvet. Because she's got a holiday this week now. So she was like, alright, mattress day! And that turned into a mattress weekend. And we took literally the mattress from the bed downstairs into the living room. We've just been just spending all of our weekend on the mattress watching Disney films.
Oh, really?
It's been very cool. We've been we decided semi on a whim to rewatch all of like the Disney animated studio films from the very start, so like Snow White.
Right, like all the classics, right?
We've just finished watching Sleeping Beauty. And all of them, I was surprised just how well they all hold up.
Oh yeah,
so well animated.
I feel like,
and a lot of the jokes
fantastic.
and the little nuances they put into the characters still hold up. Like their jokes, me and my partner just have in jokes and tell each other on a daily that we didn't even realize we were in these movies.
Right, it's so embedded itself in the culture, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Those movies generally hold up, right? I mean, there's some that are considered problematic at this point, let's say.
Oh, have you watched Peter Pan any time in the last 20 years?
No. Well, what's the Peter Pan issue?
So I'll just leave it at this. Maybe you can Google it later for yourself. But there is a song in it called "What Makes the Red Man Red."
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh, so that was a delight to realize how racist a lot of early Disney stuff was, but also how the non-racist bits, they just hold up so well. Generally just still make us barely laugh, and they're just good. They're just good fun times,
Right. I feel like at the time they were generally not meant to be, intentionally or insidiously racist, but I don't know. I mean, I can't even really wrap my head around the mindset of the time, I guess. Yeah, well, let me tell you about Flamingo Eugenics.
Please. So I've been playing Carrion.
Oh yeah, unrelated.
I say I've been playing. I played Carrion. It ended up being a lot shorter than I would have quote unquote hoped for. Yeah, it ended up being about a 6-hour playthrough, like long enough that, or short enough, I say, you could have played it in one sitting, like a really long sitting kind of thing. And it's probably best. It's probably best to play it in one long sitting, for reasons I'll talk about in a bit. What was the question? Sorry.
What did you pay for it?
£15, something along those lines. Well, that 20 Canadian.
Okay. Yeah,
something like that.
Probably more than that.
Yeah.
But that seems fine. I think a lot of people get hung up on sort of dollar value to hours in a game, which I don't think is legitimate.
And for the experience and for that price range, I wish more games with that.
Right.
Without going into the details on the game so far, I'd really love a tight game that doesn't outstay its welcome. That leaves me wanting more. Wanting more. And it is worth the amount I pay for it, and then I can go, yeah, that was a really fun experience, and I can talk about that, and I completed it.
Right, exactly.
Because we are completely inundated, and this is a whole nother topic again, with live servicey games, games as a service, and open world stuff that just fill you with busy work, literally, that is mindless and mind-numbing, and not at all interesting, but it keeps you busy and adds the hours onto what should be like a 15-hour game to make it 70 hours or something.
Right,
looking at
exactly.
you Assassin's Creed that I've actually never played, but I'm criticizing you anyway.
Yeah, fair.
So actually on with Carrion. As a recap, this is a game that you basically play as a blob of what's called biomass. The game calls it biomass. Draws really horrible, gritty connotations about, gore and, all that good horror goodness. You play as this blob of biomass as essentially the alien / monster of a monster horror film.
Right. I remember this. What was that movie you compared it to?
Oh, The Thing.
The Thing, yes.
And you're essentially going around as... You just control yourself freely in the 2D plane. There's no platforming involved or fine-tuning controls. You just go along and smash things apart, grab people with many tentacles and add them to your biomass as they scream and blood goes everywhere. It's so cathartic and fun. If you just need a really fun stress relieving kind of game.
Oh yeah.
It's so good for that. And where the game really excels is where you're just flying your biomass from room to room, because you kind of build up this momentum as this big blob of things, and you just smash through a room, killing everyone in your path, wriggling into a vent, popping out the other side as their backs turn and dragging them into the vent and stuff, while their mate who's next to them just screams and goes, ah, falls to the ground and backs away, crawling. And then
that sounds amazing.
And then you approach him slowly, the last one slowly, as he's holding a pistol shakingly at you, and he's too scared to fire it. And then you grab him and rip him apart.
I mean, the approaching slowly, I assume, is your own personal choice.
Oh yes.
Yes. You're just delighting in all of this.
Yeah, after you've just destroyed the rest of the thing. So the game itself works on a really cool, unique upgradey system. I've heard it compared a lot to Metroidvania-style games. Okay. I don't know whether you've heard that on the Vine or having looked it up at all.
I have not looked up this game at all.
But the kind of usual things that that evokes. So looking for power-ups, a little bit of backtracking after you've got a power-up to go unlock a new area, for example, things like that. And that's where the game, I feel like that's kind of an unfair comparison to some extent, because it's definitely not too bad on the whole Metroidvania backtracking things. You can totally just keep advancing and not have to worry about backtracking at all, and the main storyline progresses. If the reason you'd want to backtrack is to 100% it, which is what I ended up doing because I was having so much fun anyway.
Right. So how easy is it to figure out when you need to backtrack or you want to? How easy is it to tell, oh, there was that thing I can go back and do now?
So this is where the game falls apart a little bit, and why some people have had like mixed reviews about it that I've looked up since playing it, is that there's no map.
No map.
So if I were to pitch this game to you and I said it has Metroidvania elements and there's no map.
I mean, my first thought when you said Metroidvania, my first question was, I wonder what the map is like. And you're saying there's no map.
There is no map.
Oh, no.
Which, if you're playing this like a linear story progression-y thing, where you're just going from room to room, smashing things apart, unlocking the next area that way, you don't need a map. Honestly, you don't. I played through this game absolutely fine. I got lost towards the very end when I decided to backtrack because the game told me I hadn't 100%ed things. I'm like, ah! And there was like very few things I'd left to collect, so I had to. I didn't even realize it was the very end of the game at that point, and the game tells you, oh, these are some areas of things you've missed, and thought, all right, well, before I continue with this game, I bet there's like another hour or two. Let's go collect and fully upgrade before I do the final bit, and then the game kind of ends.
Right.
So it was kind of a little bit fell flat at the end for me, because I'm like, oh, I wanted to use all these abilities I just got, and now it's the end.
I feel like that happens too often in games, where they finally power you up, and then you're already at the end.
Yeah, but I felt like you didn't need the map, because going from room to room, the way the levels were designed and the whole linear route was designed, if you don't feel like they need to backtrack, makes sense. Like, the next area is at the end of that first area, and yes, there's little branchy paths in between it, but you need to explore all those branchy paths to unlock the next door. So you just go to the next area, explore all the branchy paths, trial by error essentially at that point.
Right.
But it doesn't take too long because there's not a huge amount of random routes off that lead to dead ends or what have you. All the rooms are there for a kind of a purpose, but you just naturally kind of explore them. So I feel like it's designed in a really nice way to not need the map. And I feel like the game would have been lesser for having a map.
Interesting. Just from a simplicity's sake, or just sort of forcing yourself to learn the game better?
Yeah, both. So, again, the fun comes from just, smashing things apart and momentum going from room to room. And just learning in a game with a map. Let's say a really obvious kind of Metroidvania that I really loved in the past few years was Hollow Knight. Utterly fantastic game. I don't know whether you've played it.
No. Anytime you ask me this, the answer is no.
Dude, play Hollow Knight. Do you like any kind of Metroidvania kind of style games?
I like some Metroid, but it's not my favorite genre either. Okay. I don't seek it out.
See, I like start playing a Metroid game and then kind of get bored halfway through. I did not put down Hollow Knight.
Okay.
It's much more focused around kind of the tight platforming side as well, which, as we already discussed, I'm really into.
Right.
But there's a big, strong combat-y feeling to it as well. I could go talk about a whole thing about Hollow Knight, but that's a strong recommendation for Hollow Knight. Whereas that kind of game, the world's a lot bigger and a lot more sprawling, and it's leaves open to interpretation where you need to go next. And that has a really, really useful map, a really excellent map. And boy, did I check that every 5 seconds. Which took away from the kind of being in the moment and in the world and exploring it. Which at certain points in the game, I just kind of okay, let's just ignore the map. I know where I need to go. I'm just ignore the map for a bit. But I had to force myself to do that. In this game, I didn't have to force myself to ignore the map because there wasn't one.
Yeah.
I just got to be in the moment, enjoy the really gory, gorgeous visuals of this sprite, gooey tentacle monster, ripping things apart, and I feel like the game was a lot better for not having a map.
I think
At least
that's
more
legit.
enjoyable. Maybe not necessarily quote unquote better in a game design standpoint.
No, I think that's legitimate. Like, definitely having to check a map all the time pulls you out of a game. And ultimately, if you sort of end up leaning on it, you probably learn the game a lot, less, right? So you end up always looking at the maps. You never just learn the levels.
Yeah. I mean, there was like a few times where I'd like come to a point where I couldn't do yet because I didn't have the right power up. And that was like needed to progress the game kind of thing. So I got lost once or twice because I like stumbled upon that once and then didn't know how to get back there.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. A map would have helped out better than that. And there are other times as well where it gets a bit puzzly and you have to try and work out you get a series of abilities, again, Metroidvania kind of thing, but involved with like shooting out sticky webs or having like a spear grapple ability almost, and you can take over and parasite people's bodies for a bit as well. So there are loads of little puzzly sections which can break up that whole momentum where the game really excels, but I still really enjoyed those bits because I really like my puzzles as well, so it made me think a little about and they didn't even last that long if you're just kind of familiar with the mechanics of it by those points.
But you're saying that's a good thing.
I enjoyed those bits. I feel like it was 6 hours of just chomping through enemies. It would have gotten a bit tedious at one point. But at the end of the day, it ended before I wanted it to. So it left me wanting more, but at the same time, I feel like that was a good thing because it didn't overstay its welcome.
Right.
And I really hope they make like a sequel or something.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, why not leave them wanting more and make them hungry for a sequel, Like, why overstuff your games? Yeah, I don't understand some developers.
Yeah, for sure. So, I can recommend it, but with caveats, obviously. I can totally see why it's not for some people, or why some people didn't enjoy it that much.
Right. Okay. Sounds cool. It sounds like it's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. It sounds appealing to me. So you sold me. Yeah. Well, let me tell you about Flamingo Eugenics.
Please.
No, I should have a little segment in here on SNK heroines because I did promise last time.
You promised me, Newbs. You promised.
I promised you. Having said that, I've played nothing but Planet Zoo since then, so I'm struggling to remember much about it.
It's not like it's been a month since we last talked to each other, is it?
No. Couldn't be.
We wouldn't have let that happen.
No. So, last time, I already gave a bit of a interpretation of what was going on storyline-wise, I believe. There is some kind of perv man who seems to have brought all these sexy fighting ladies together in, I think it's like an alternate dimension.
Totally not like a player insert character. Right.
Like your player insert otaku character has brought them all together. And Terry, the famous Terry of Fatal Fury, has been gender swapped. I don't know how. So it's a sexy lady Terry.
I remember you saying this. Yeah.
Terry's hat, I guess, would normally say, he wears like a ball cap, would say Fatal Fury, I believe normally. And in the game, it's the sexy lady Terry says Fatal Cutie. Anyways, I believe as well in this alternate dimension, he's sort of forcing them to play out sort of tropey fetishes, let's say. Like, I'm assuming there's a lot of sort of anime tropes that are just built into the costumes and things that I just don't really get. But, there's like the bookish one and the childish one and the mean one and the friendly one, right? Mm-hmm. And like, they all have bizarro outfits. There's like a little Bo Peep one and a librarian. I guess that one stuck with me. And it's a very basic fighting game. I would say the complexity is definitely stripped down quite a bit. No pun intended. But it's a functional fighting game. What could I say? The idea is, of course, you're always picking two characters, and you can swap back and forth, tag team in and out. And that's it. It's a basic, 2D Street Fighter style fighting game featuring a bunch of sexy ladies belonging to SNK.
Any special fighting-y mechanics involved in it?
No.
This is just literally a bog standard copy pasta kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Aww.
I mean, I think the tag team thing is as much of a gimmick as there is. And like I said, I think in terms of combos and just the move sets, I think are very basic, based on what little I know of fighting games. Mostly, and again, there's the modes are not mind blowing either. You can play through the basic sort of arcade, story mode, if you will. With each character to unlock some kind of sexy artwork for each one, right?
What else would you unlock?
Why else? And then there is also, I think each of them has a particular pairing that if you play through as that tag team, you unlock another set of art of the tag team. And so, for whatever strange reason, I played through with every character unlocked all of this art. You also earn some kind of in-game currency that you can then buy alternate costumes for everybody. I think there's two alternate costumes for everybody. And for whatever reason, I decided to do all of that.
For no reason in particular, nothing...
Well, I'm no. I mean, okay, yes, that's what brought me in the first place.
The plot of the single player things must have been real good.
Yes, well, I already described the plot as best I could remember, which, to be fair, was amusing the first time around. But I think kind of like with our Super Monkey Ball discussion, sometimes you just want a cheap filler game, junk food game.
Yeah.
Some games let's say Planet Zoo or Factorio are really absorbing and really time and thought intensive, and they kind of end up feeling like work. Or not just kinda, they legitimately do.
Yeah, Terraria has been feeling a little bit like that for me, but I've been enjoying it as well. Because some bosses in the really hard mode, you need to, because I've not had huge amounts of time, I've been prepping on and off for a week to defeat one boss kind of thing.
Oh wow!
Gathering enough resources and upgrading some stuff and farming for the right gear and stuff like that. So,
so sometimes you just want a game where you don't have to think. You just smash the buttons.
Absolutely. And
the anime girls jump around and do their thing, and it's just it's a bit of a palate cleanse. So this is similar to Monkey Ball. Would recommend on deep discount only, which I think it seems like it is always on deep discount.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So one thing I've found out from Googling this game is said fatal cutie, gender swapped Terry, looks nothing like Terry.
Well, what are you gonna do?
What? It's just some generic ass skinny anime girl.
What is this? Generic anime girls.
Yeah. What? At least have some variety.
I don't know. Yeah.
If you're gonna do a gender swap, do a gender swap correctly. Don't just make them a generic anime person. And then, upon further Googling, there's people who agree with me. That was my initial instinct. It was this... I only know Terry from the Smash Bros. Trailer.
Yeah, right.
And then there's just some generic ass, rather well endowed, too skinny anime girl. If you're gonna have going off on another little rant here. If you're gonna have a girl that skinny, her boobs are never gonna be that big unless she's had work done. It does not how bodies work. This
is how anime works, though.
I mean, I love looking at pretty girls as much as the next guy. Unless you're homosexual and you swing that way. But even then, like, don't homosexuals also really like looking at just pretty girls anyway because they're pretty, right?
Man, you are going for the controversial topics here. Right. I don't know. I cannot. I have no idea. I'm sure it depends on the person.
No, yeah, I'm just kind of like talking out loud here. It totally depends on person to person, and all that in between. But I then went into a little further Google thing while listening to you, and I'll just like copy. Can I copy paste this into Discord? And I'll bring it up in the video.
Sure, we'll see what happens here.
Badoop. This is how you design a gender swap Terry.
Okay, but the otaku are not going to be into this muscle appropriate female Terry.
No, but look how muscly she is. And
yeah.
That's Terry.
I mean, yeah. But that's not the point now, is it?
No, that's not the point of the game. And that's not why the game was made. And I understand they're wrong, though. I'm just saying.
Well, I feel like some of this is honestly down to developer laziness because all the characters pretty much look physically identical under their costumes.
Yeah, aside from like model.
Right. Aside from some height differences. So I feel like that's a lot of it. Mm-hmm. You only need to design one set of breast physics if they all have the same chest. So
it's copy paste bounce physics.
Right. The game in general feels lazy.
Does it have? This is the mark of a true like polish in those kind of games. Does it have a jiggle physics slider?
I don't believe it does.
That's a shame.
I know, disappointing. I know.
But yeah, that's clearly a sign of lazy development.
Low effort stuff.
Yeah.
So, good point. You always manage to find a way to stretch my segments that I have nothing to say into something way deeper.
My brain works in wonderful, wonderful ways.
Wonderful ways.
Okay.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about Flamingo Eugenics.
Please. So there is a game I should definitely talk about because it's very of the culture at the moment.
Of the moment.
It is Fall Guys.
Yes, I've heard much about this. I don't really understand it. Is it like let me guess. Here's my guess.
What have you seen about it, and what are you kind of extrapolating from that?
Here's my interpretation of like watching the donkey video.
The donkey video.
The donkey video. It appears to be a. Okay, I'm struggling for the words right now. What are these games where it's like 100 people in a match and then you whittle it down to one?
Royale.
Battle Royale.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. One of these, but with mini games. Something along the lines of, I think it was originally called Takeshi's Castle, was it? Mm-hmm. And then they took that footage and turned it into, what was that show on like Spike TV? If you ever had Spike TV.
No, we did not. It probably had something similar. Total Wipeout?
No, that's way more modern.
Sorry. Total Wipeout. There we go.
No.
But it's like all those kind of games. You've hit the nail on the head, essentially. That's the first impression, and that's exactly what it is.
I'm killing it.
It's nothing more complicated than that. It's honestly the first battle royale game that I've been interested in, full stop, and has kept me invested past playing one or two games of it.
Okay, I guess you're really selling it here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to interrupt. I found the show I was trying to name. Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, so I think it was a legit Japanese game show similar to this, where it's like you start with 100 people and they all run through these little courses. But then they took the footage and dubbed over it and turned it into this bizarro comedy, which it probably already was meant to be funny
this
anyways.
looks amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it does look very Takeshi's Castle kind of thing. Oh,
I think that's the show.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it is literally Takeshi's Castle, but they've dubbed over it and that. Okay, yeah.
Right,
Because I remember
exactly.
seeing some of these things on what was branded to us as Takeshi's Castle.
Ah, okay, there you go.
Yeah. So they're the same thing. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So it's that.
But yeah, we had the same kind of thing. It was still called Takeshi's Castle, but it was
Interesting.
dubbed over by an announcer.
Was it
just laughing?
Was it all just jokes?
Essentially like, look at this guy, he's falling in again, what a wazik, hey, kind of thing.
I don't know. The version we had was like almost making fun of the show and the competitors at the same time. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, there was, I guess there was some of that as well. I just can't think of anything off the top of my head. It's like, what on earth is going on here? All that kind of stuff. And while I've Googled the most extreme elimination show, guess what's popped up in the Google image search?
I'm going to guess Fall Guys.
Nope. Super Monkey Ball 2 for the GameCube.
Okay. Unrelated. I mean, that's just your search history.
Why is that
the
here?
The relation is that's just your search history.
Yeah. Why is this here? Why are you here? When I click on it, it just brings up a DVD for Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Oh, that's strange.
But the image is for Super
strange.
Monkey Ball 2 for the GameCube.
Huh.
On camelcamelcamel.com. Sorry. Back to Fall Guys. So
yes, please.
Fall Guys is exactly what it looks like. It is all that, and imagine as much fun as that could be playing those being in part of those kind of game shows, and without the humiliation of being knocked out
in real life.
And like having your fall into the slime, be put into slow-mo and broadcast nationally.
Right.
You know? It's like, okay, you fall in the thing, you're eliminated, you're done. Cool, next round, let's go, back in. And then you're playing again and like knocking into, they're called beans, knocking into the other beans and just like getting, and like falling over and going, oh, that was silly fun.
So is it like, say, what do you start with, 100 people?
60.
60. So you start with 60. Does everyone play that a minigame and then everybody who survives plays the next minigame?
Yeah, and there's typically 5 rounds, but I've played some where there's 4 rounds where loads of people got eliminated because they were bad, or not many people got eliminated because it was one of those mini games where not many people end up getting eliminated, and then it goes for like 6 rounds. I've had a 7-rounder one as well.
Oh, wow.
Which was
so
insane.
It goes until what? There's one person left
until it hits. There's a rotation of quote unquote final rounds.
Okay.
Where there will only ever be one winner. So there's one that comes up the most. It's called Hexagon, where it's one of these things where you have loads of different layers of hexagons, and when you step on a hexagon, it disappears. Last person not falling in the slime wins.
Gotcha.
So hopefully you can kind of picture what's going on there. There's another one where it's literally a race up a big hill with balls falling down and swinging doors, and you have to jump at the end to try and catch a crown. And that's a winner. There's another one where you have to try and you have to end up with the tail after the time limit, and you have to grab the person with the tail. And there's only one tail.
Okay.
So you're all just like running around aimlessly after each other for a minute and a half trying to grab this one tail.
Right.
And inevitably it comes down to the last...
Okay, I see. That's why there's one winner.
Inevitably it comes down to the last 10 seconds.
Yeah,
where someone just grabs the tail, falls over, ragdolls, and then it's just everyone dog piles and there's grab every single time. So for that mini game, it's like there's no point chasing after it because it's like, all right, I'm going to sit here for a minute and chase after it for the last 30 seconds because it makes no
like
difference.
you could just kind of wait, couldn't you? There's no point in getting it early.
Yeah. There's another one as well where it's very total wipeout, kind of, the spinny. You're on a circular platform and there's spinny bars, that go around, and you have to, and the platform then starts falling away as you have to try and avoid the jump over the one bar and duck under another and things like that.
Right on.
And until one person's left, kind of thing. So overall,
so is there any sort of overall you want to win, but is there anything you're building towards, or?
So that's one of the negatives of the game. It's not that you're not really building towards anything, because I honestly couldn't care less if there was nothing else to the game other than just these challenges, and then you win one occasionally. It makes you feel good.
Right.
There's the progression is like a Fortnite / League of Legends season battle pass type thing,
okay.
And it takes so long to grind through it to get some of the cosmetics and things. And the rewards are like drip fed, and there's a rotating store for the cosmetics. So basically everyone at any given time just looks exactly the same as each other, because it's just the rotating store for that day. Everyone just buys it, then equips it, and then equips the next thing. So it's
right.
I guess maybe in like a month's time, when we're in like the next season kind of thing, there'll be kind of a mix and match and things. But
well, maybe over time people have built up, their costumes, and they'll want to wear different things.
But just have you ever played those kind of games where it feels like it should be a free-to-play game, but it's not? There's so many microtransaction heavy elements, like forcing you to go along the grind, or you could buy the speed up option.
Oh no, I can't think of any examples, but this has that, does it?
Yeah. So in general, the game itself is really fun. They've monetized it and marketed as a free-to-play game, even though it cost me £16 to buy.
Oh, how did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to play it because it looked really fun. But I don't know. I mean, they must be making so much money off this game, because it's been bought crazy amounts. It's been super successful.
So you're saying, okay, it is not actually free to play, or Nintendo would say free to start, right?
Yeah.
It costs cash money on Steam or whatever.
Yeah,
PS4.
you can get it on PS4 and Steam, I think, only at the moment.
Yeah.
I believe it's free for PS Plus subscription people. So if you have like the PlayStation Plus thing, technically it's free to play, but you're also already paying for it, kind of thing.
Right, because it's 20 Canadian on Steam right now.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the game itself is worth that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate how they've done the progression system and the monetization after you've bought it, but the game itself, regardless of what else is going on, it just that just kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth. The game and the gameplay itself is just straight up worth that.
Right.
It's really fun.
So, you're experiencing the full game after you've made the initial purchase, though, right?
Yeah. It's just you just progress through various things and buy emotes and costumes, which do come fairly quickly, but then at a certain point it gets slow.
Yeah. I don't personally. I don't think that would bother me. Like, I don't need that stuff. I'm fine with just the base game.
Which is why I'm still saying it's worth it, because the base game is that much fun.
Right.
There are certain cosmetics and things that cost crowns, which you need to win, come first in a round to get one of the crowns. So they're pretty kind of like rare and far and few between.
But you've really earned something with that. Like that I get, like that means something when you get a crown.
But then it kind of comes into the point when things do come up in the store that cost crowns, for example, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool, but do I really want to spend a crown on it? I really worked for this crown, and then I don't want to spend my crowns.
Better later.
So I'm just hoarding all my crowns.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, which is silly and counterintuitive, but but what if on the next rotation there's something I really want, and then would have spent my crowns, and I'm not guaranteed to get crowns. Right. So I've got to save my crowns for the thing I really want that I don't know exists yet.
Yeah, that's
Whereas
the worst.
if there was just a store there, I could just go, okay, right, I can spend my crown on that and that and that. Cool.
Right.
And I want to save up for that because that looks cool as well. But I don't know what's out there because it's a rotating store.
Yeah, that's too bad. I feel like they'd be better off having mostly a static store with maybe a few rotating items. Or just make additions over time, let's say.
Or like seasonal kind of featured rotating stores kind of thing.
Right.
And then release that onto the general store for the next season?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes more sense. Really, almost anything would make more sense than what you're describing.
Yeah, so like we're in summer right now. Maybe there's like a load of summer sets that rotate around day to day. But if you play, like, there'll be one on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they will rotate predictably, for example.
Right,
and that still encourages people to keep playing on the daily, but you can then look it up and predict when they're going to come up instead of it being random, and you know at the end of the season anyway they're going to be in the general store so you don't miss out. But then it's out of season, so it's like, oh, don't we want to wear summer gear in autumn?
I mean, yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, so overall,
don't you
great
want
fun.
it to always be summer?
Great fun, super silly. It's hilariously silly. There's like nitpicks about a couple of game types and some mini games that are less fun than others, but they're really nitpicky.
Sure.
And they're a lot of the time for me personal preference. Apart from one game which everyone hates, which is just takes away the whole silly fun of it. It's like it's a memory game, so you get flashed like on a 3x3 grid. So, or 4x4, whatever. Different fruits. And then at the end of 10 seconds, it'll show you a fruit and you have to stand on the fruit. And all the other ones disappear. So,
hate it.
Pretty much everyone succeeds that one, apart from a few people who either get baited or weren't paying attention or get shoved off by someone because someone else is being a dick. So it's like 2 people per those rounds that fall off, so that drags out the whole thing and makes it feel like the whole round's pointless.
Well, it doesn't sound fun to begin with.
And it's not fun because the whole fun of the game is jumping around, like running into each other, falling over, getting ragdolled, falling off the side of things into slime, and like trying to platform and like, you know, struggle past 60 other people, all of who are ragdolling into you and knocking you about. That's where the fun is. Not even winning. That's the fun. Just like having beans flop about into you as you're struggling to do what is technically simple platforming because there's so many of you. Like, I'm just laughing, thinking and telling you about it. It's that fun.
I never understood the appeal of those. Like, they have mini games that are memory games in say Mario Party as well, and it's just like, it's not fun. Who's playing this and going, this is a fun one, this is a winner?
Like,
you know?
Yeah, it's either too easy, in which case everyone succeeds, or it's too hard and you're having no fun because you can't remember.
Well, it's just not the kind of game you're there for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. That's like the one mini game I strongly think should be removed. But then there's like team games and things, which is people saying, oh, it's kind of an RNG. It's just a roll of the dice if you get put with a good team or not. To which I say that's kind of part of the fun as well. Like getting like these team games are fun in themselves. I quite like them.
I think, the RNG, like, there's so many people playing at once. The randomness should be evened out. Mm-hmm. You know, how wildly, how disproportionate can 2 teams be out of a pool of 60 people or 30 even?
Yeah, and like one time you'll get the bad team, another time you'll get the good team, and one of these games is like push balls into your area.
Right.
And they're like really big balls. And we ended up having all 7 of them in our quadrant. I say quadrant, like it's 3 teams. our area. So quadrant isn't really allowed for that.
No.
Gotta be nitpicking. So we had all of them. But if because the bottom team gets completely eliminated for those kind of games.
Sure,
if the
so
bottom
like 1/3
teams are tied, it goes into overtime. So we had 7 and they both had 0, so the game wouldn't have ended if we had all of them. So we had to, at one point, purposely push one of the balls out.
That's strange that you guys were just so dominant.
Yeah. It was a really fun round. But
strange.
like, come on, guys, let's have them so we can let the round end, kind of thing.
Yeah. You guys are playing, who lives and who dies here.
Yeah, but like, what's great about these kind of games is like what's known as the emergent gameplay. Like I've got so many of these really fun stories that from this game that you couldn't get from a lot of other games that are linear and narrow, like contained in their own little story. Like from Carrion, I've got the same story as everyone else because they would have gone past the same room and eaten the people essentially in the same way because there's no multiple ways. You can like tackle each for Carrion, like tackle the specific rooms in different ways. Like you can either go in the vent or like charge in and destroy everything, like be a little bit sneaky about it. But you're still doing essentially the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. This is like, you have stories to share with other people. Like, oh, I can't believe this happened, and somebody else had a completely different story.
Yeah, and that's why it's completely blown up on Twitch and loads of clips of it on Twitter and things like that. I saw a really funny one actually on Twitter that I don't use, but someone linked to me. I'm assuming two guys in a party. They were on the what's called Fall Mountain, so the final round where you have to climb up the mountain and grab the crown at the end with all the balls falling down. And I'm assuming, again, I don't know the full story here, but from the story that's being told is one of his friends hasn't got a crown yet. Okay. And as you're like approaching the crown, there's like two sides you could come up at it, so like two directions you could jump up at the crown. So this guy's friend who is trying to get his buddy to get a crown is first to reach the crown, but he wants his buddy to get the crown, so he leaps the gap to stop all the other people on that side from jumping to get the crown. And he like manages to knock them off with his dive, or just gets in the way long enough for his buddy to come up and go, and grab the crown.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's impressive.
While they like play, I need a hero.
Yeah,
that's
incredible.
Hero to that kind of beautifully edited kind of little snippet of the stories that are coming out of this game. And it's beautiful. It's amazing.
The guy who did that, like the skill level seems very impressive.
He is such a hero, yeah. But it is so simple. Like, you've got a jump button, and you've got a dive button, and you've got a grab button.
Right.
And that's it. You don't need anything else. It's great.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest games end up having the most skill to learn in a way. It's
essentially like a sandbox play area where it's like, all right, you got to get to the end, and if you don't make it, you just start again and have another go.
Right.
It's a playground. That's the same feeling of being in a playground with lots of other children from when I was younger. It's the same kind of feeling that elicits in me.
Although I don't think you were, jumping on children and
and knocking them into the abyss.
Distances. Yeah, unlikely.
But
maybe I'm wrong.
But it's the same fun, and it's reliving that as well. That is a big part of this game.
The playground was mostly a nightmare world for me as a child, filled with bullies and monsters. But yes, I'll take your word for it.
Crying sadness. I'm thinking more like park playgrounds where you don't know the children. You just they're kind of like blank faces that are there and are also playing their own games, which is more what this is like, because you don't know all the other 59 other players.
True.
Other than like maybe the 2 or 3 friends you brought in to play with you. To have a laugh at each other. Like, you didn't make it that time. Good one. How could you be so bad? This is such an easy game. Lol, lol, lol.
Right.
Yeah. Things like that.
Fantastic.
It's great.
Yeah, well, let me tell you about Flamingo Eugenics.
Please. What is online paper magic, though? What is that?
Oh, yeah. I thought I would throw that in. So it is Magic the Gathering. Okay. And there are plenty of online ways to play. Not plenty, but there are a couple ways to play Magic online. But it's become common in the COVID era to use like webcams to play paper Magic, with the physical cards.
Okay, right, nice.
Yeah, show each other kind of the table in front of you, And there's even an app now. It was, I guess, developed by a fan. It's been brought in-house by Wizards of the Coast, the company who makes Magic now, that handles the video, and actually it recognizes the cards, and you can even sort of click on your opponent's cards and bring up.
That's wizardry, witchcraft.
Yeah, it's incredible, right? To kind of just read this potentially low quality webcam image, poorly lit, and go, search a database of 20,000 cards and go, oh yeah, it's this, and here's the modern rules text for it, because they've all been rewritten 3 times.
What a world we live in where that's possible.
It's crazy.
That's amazing.
And can just be hacked together by fans even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of thing just puts a big smile on my face. Like, I'll never use that specific example of it.
Mm-hmm.
But technology like that just puts such a big smile on my face. Like, oh, that's possible. That's so cool. And then I turn on a news channel and there's protests of people who say the coronavirus isn't real.
Right. Anti-mask protesters.
Yeah. And I just put my head in my hands and go, we're so advanced. We're the pinnacle of the human race. And I cry.
Well, wait. Are you saying we personally are the pinnacles or pinnacle of the human race overall?
The human race is at its current pinnacle.
Oh, okay.
Compared to what has come before us, the technology has advanced to such a degree where things we never even dreamed of 10, 20 years ago are coming true.
All the time.
But vaccines give you autism.
Right. And there is no virus. It's
and there's no such thing as the coronavirus.
I mean, apparently there's just no such thing as getting sick at all, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. What diseases are allowed? Which ones are real? What's the rule? Apparently it's nothing exists until it happens to me personally.
Yeah, I guess so. So enough of that. We need to wrap up. So where can people find more about you, Newbs?
On YouTube. Just search Newbs, Newbs, or the link is in the description of all our videos.
Nice. You can find me on, I guess, YouTube, but not that I use it. It's Burrhe, Burrhe. I stream very occasionally, but more so than I did a few weeks ago. So that's happening. Right.
Exciting.
I've been getting my girlfriend wants to play Carrion. So after watching me play a bit here and there, so we did a stream of her playing it a little bit. So we're going to probably continue that at some point, if not already, by the time this episode's come out. And I'm still streaming the bi-weekly Melee tournaments that we've been doing for UK Manchester-based stuff every other Saturday. So tune in if you want that, twitch.tv/Burrhe. Anything else you want to add, Newbs?
That's all from me.
Alright, cool. We'll see you later, guys. Until next episode. Bye!
Bye! I think it's good we went over, because I don't know, I'm sure there's chunks there you're going to have to cut.